The night was heavy with smoke and noise. The alien marketplace was alive, full of shouts, bright lights, and cruel laughter. Strange creatures filled the air with their voices, each one eager to buy or sell. The auction stage stood tall in the center, a place where lives were sold like objects. One by one, the slaves were brought forward. Some were strong, some young, some skilled. The crowd shouted prices, waving coins and credits. A tall lizard-like alien was sold quickly. A group of insect traders bought 2 strong workers. Every time the hammer struck, another life was taken away. Then the noise changed. A young girl was pushed onto the stage. She was small, thin, and her eyes were full of fear. Her skin was pale silver, her hair dark and messy. She looked weak, too weak for labor, too fragile for war. The crowd grew silent for a moment. Then whispers started. "She is useless," one alien hissed. "A waste of space," another sneered. "No strength, no skill, not even beauty," a fat merchant laughed. The auctioneer tried to make her sound valuable. "A young one. Still has many years to serve." "Who will start the bidding?" His voice cracked as he looked at the crowd. No hands were raised. The girl's heart sank. She stood alone, shaking as the crowd turned away. For a moment it felt like the whole universe had rejected her. She was not even worth the price of a tool. The auctioneer grew angry. "Someone must want her. She cannot be worthless." Still no voice came forward. The silence was louder than the shouts. Just when the girl believed her end had come, a sound broke the silence. "I'll take her." The words were calm, steady, and strange. All eyes turned to see who had spoken. It was not a lizard, not an insect, not one of the alien races. It was a human. He stood tall at the back of the crowd. His clothes were worn from travel, his eyes sharp and serious. He walked forward slowly, each step making the crowd move aside. The alien stared at him with a mix of fear and anger. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Rare and dangerous. The auctioneer blinked. Human?" He almost dropped his hammer. "You wish to claim this one?" The man nodded. "Yes." A wave of whispers spread through the market. "Why would a human want her?" "She is worthless." "Humans are strange, always choosing the broken ones." The girl looked at him with wide eyes. She did not understand. She had seen humans only from a distance, stories told in fear and respect. But why him? Why her? The auctioneer hesitated. He expected the human to offer money. But the man simply said, "She is mine now." His voice carried such weight, such power, that the auctioneer could not argue. Slowly, with shaking hands, he struck the hammer. Sold. To the human. The chains were unlocked. The girl was pushed forward, stumbling into the man's shadow. She expected cruelty like all masters before him. Instead, the human bent down slightly and whispered words only she could hear. "You are safe now." Her eyes widened. No one had ever said those words to her before. The crowd was restless, angry, confused. Some shouted, "Foolish human! Worthless choice!" Others laughed, waiting to see what madness would follow. But the man ignored them all. He placed a cloak around the girl's shoulders and guided her away. The marketplace behind them grew loud again, but in her ears, only silence remained. She walked beside him, unsure of his true reason. Fear mixed with curiosity. Who was this man? Why did he claim her when no one else would? As they reached the edge of the market, she dared to ask in a soft, broken voice, "Why, me?" The man did not stop walking. His answer was simple. "Because everyone else saw nothing." "But I saw a future," her heart raced. A future for her? It sounded impossible. She was unwanted, rejected, thrown aside. Yet this human spoke as if she was more than a slave, more than a tool. She glanced at him again. His face was calm, but his eyes were full of something she had never seen before. Belief. And in that moment, deep inside her, a tiny spark lit up. For the first time in her life, she wondered, could he be right? But far behind them, in the shadows of the market, other eyes watched. Dark shapes whispered to each other. The human had made a dangerous choice, and danger would follow. The girl did not know it yet. But her life had just changed forever, and the galaxy would never forget the night when the unwanted was claimed by a human. The ship left the marketplace behind, but the girl's heart was still trapped there. She sat in silence, her thin hands pressed together, her silver eyes fixed on the floor. The human guided his small ship through the stars, calm as if nothing strange had happened. For her, everything was strange. She had never been treated gently. She had never been given freedom to sit without chains. And now she was inside a human ship, safe for now, but unsure why. The hum of the engines filled the quiet. The man placed a tray in front of her. There was food, real food, not the dry crumbs the traders used to throw. "Eat," he said. His voice was firm but not unkind. She hesitated. "What, give me this?" "Because you are hungry." He looked at her directly. "And because you deserve more than scraps." Her fingers shook as she reached for the bread. She expected him to snatch it back or laugh at her weakness, but he did not. He simply watched, waiting. Slowly, she took a bite. The taste was warm, soft. She almost cried because it was too much kindness at once. "Who are you?" she whispered. The man leaned back in his chair. "My name is Kale. I am human." She nodded. Of course he was human. But that word, human, meant something deeper. Other races feared them. Stories told of humans who never gave up, who survived where no one else could. She never thought she would sit across from one. "Why me?" Her voice trembled. "I was unwanted. They all said I was useless." Kale's eyes narrowed. "They were blind. They only saw what you are now." "I see what you can become." Her chest tightened. No one had ever spoken of her future. Her life had always been about survival, about living one more day. To imagine a future felt like dreaming of another universe. She tried to argue. "I am weak. I cannot fight. I cannot work." He shook his head. "Weakness is not forever. Humans know that. We start small, fragile, but we grow. You can grow too." She stared at him, uncertain if his words were truth or just kindness. But his eyes held no lies. The ship jolted suddenly. Lights flickered. Outside the window, a shadow passed across the stars. The girl gasped. Kale stood quickly, checking the scanners. His jaw tightened. "Raiders," he said, her blood ran cold. Raiders, the same hunters who sold her kind in cages, who burned villages, who never left survivors. She gripped the seat. They will take me back." Kale turned to her, his expression calm but sharp. "Not while I breathe." His words struck her harder than the jolt. Not while he breathed. He was willing to fight for her, a stranger, someone the galaxy had rejected. The raider ships grew closer, their red lights flashing. Kyle's fingers danced across the controls. He steered the ship down into a planet's atmosphere, the hull shaking as fire streaked across the sky. The girl's heart pounded. She thought the ship would break apart, but Kale's hands never wavered. He guided the vessel down, through clouds and storm, until it landed rough on rocky ground. The engines hissed as they powered down. Kyle stood, pulling a pack from the wall. "We move on foot, come." She followed, legs weak but moving. The planet was harsh. Red skies, sharp rocks, winds that cut across the skin. Every breath burned her lungs. She stumbled, but Kale caught her arm before she fell. "You must learn to stand," he said. "The universe is cruel, but you can survive it." She wanted to believe, but fear crushed her heart. "I am not like you." "I cannot fight." Kale stopped and faced her. His expression was serious, but his voice steady. "You don't need to be me. You need to be you. And you will learn." The words sank into her mind like seeds. They found shelter in a cave. Kale started a fire with small tools, showing her how. The flames lit the stone walls. And for the first time in her life, she felt warmth not given by chains or machines, but by choice. As she sat by the fire, Kale placed a simple knife in front of her. The blade gleamed in the light, her eyes widened. "Why give me this?" He looked into the fire. "Because one day you will need to fight for yourself, and when that day comes, you must be ready." She touched the knife, her fingers trembling. She had never been given a weapon. She had never been trusted. It felt heavy, dangerous, but also powerful. Kale spoke again, his voice low, almost like a promise. "They left you unwanted, but I claimed you because I know something they don't. You are more than they believe, and one day you will see it too." The girl stared at the blade, at the fire, at the human who spoke as if her life had meaning. For the first time she wondered if maybe, just maybe, he was right. But far above, the raider ships circled the sky. They were hunting, and soon they would come. The cave was cold, but the fire Kale had made pushed the darkness away. The girl sat close to the flames, her silver eyes fixed on the small knife he had given her. She turned it over in her hands, feeling the sharp edge, the weight of it. It was strange. She had never been trusted with something so powerful. Kale sat near the entrance, silent, watching the storm outside. His figure looked calm, but his eyes were sharp, always scanning. She wondered how he could rest so easily. knowing raiders were searching the skies. At last she asked in a soft voice, "Why do you not fear them?" Kale did not look away from the storm. Fear is natural. But fear must be a tool, not a chain. Fear tells us to be ready, not to give up. His words sounded simple, but they felt heavy. She thought about all the years when fear had been her master, when it kept her silent, weak, and broken. Could fear really be used as strength? The wind howled through the rocks. The fire flickered. Kale finally turned to her. "Tomorrow we begin. You will learn to live in this world," her heart pounded. I cannot fight." "You don't need to fight yet," he said. "First you learn to survive." The next morning the storm had passed, but the sky was still a dull red. Kale led her out of the cave and across the rocky ground. Every step was hard. The air was thin, the ground sharp. She stumbled many times, but Kale always pushed her to rise again. He showed her how to find water in the cracks of the rocks, how to test plants to see if they were safe, how to use her knife to carve wood into tools. "Your hands are clumsy," he said as she tried to shape a spear. She frowned. "Because I have never done this." "Then keep trying." His voice was steady. "Everything new feels hard, but the more you try, the stronger you become." The words stayed with her. The more you try, the stronger you become. By evening, she managed to light a small flame with the tools he gave her. It was weak, but it burned. She stared at it, amazed, as if she had made a star of her own. Kale nodded once. "Good. Remember this feeling. Power comes from what you build yourself." She felt a spark inside her chest. It was small, like the fire, but real. That night, as they sat by their campfire, Kale's eyes moved to the dark horizon. The girl followed his gaze and froze. Far in the distance, red lights blinked in the sky. Raider ships, her throat went dry. "They are coming." Kale's hand rested on his weapon. Yes, they will not give up easily. Her heart raced. She gripped the knife he had given her. "What will they do if they find us?" Kale's answer was calm but sharp like steel. "They will try to take you." "And they will try to kill me." The fire crackled. The silence between them grew heavy. She shook with fear, but Kale's face was steady, unbroken. "How can you be so calm?" she asked. He looked at her, his eyes firm. "Because humans are used to standing against stronger enemies. We survive because we refuse to bend." She swallowed hard. She wanted to believe she could do the same. The next day, Kale tested her. He gave her the spear she had made and pointed toward a small creature hiding in the rocks. "Hunt it." Her hands shook. I cannot kill." "Then you cannot eat," Kale said. "Survival does not wait for kindness," her stomach growled. She thought of all the times she had starved in cages. Her fear battled with her hunger. She raised the spear, aimed poorly, and missed. Kale did not scold her. Again, the second time, she struck true. The creature cried out and fell still. She stood frozen, staring at what she had done. Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. "Life feeds life. Remember this. You did not kill for cruelty. You killed to survive." She nodded slowly, her chest heavy but proud. For the first time, she felt like she had taken control of something. That night, the red lights grew closer. The sky above glowed with the engines of raider ships. The sound of their engines filled the air like thunder. The girl's body shook. "They will find us." Kale's jaw tightened. "Then let them come." He placed a small pack in her hands. "Inside are food and water. If I fall, you run. You live." Her eyes widened with panic. "No, I cannot live without you." Kale looked at her with fierce eyes. "Yes, you can. Because you must. Remember what I said? Weakness is not forever. You are stronger than you know." Her throat ached with unspoken words. She wanted to argue, to cry, to beg him not to face them. But deep down she knew he was right. The wind carried the roar of the raider ships. Red light painted the rocks. Shadows moved closer. Kyle rose to his full height, weapon in hand. His voice was steady, filled with fire. "They think you are nothing. Tonight we show them they are wrong." The girl gripped her knife, heart racing, eyes burning with new strength. The raiders were coming, and this time she would not face them as the unwanted. The night burned red with the glow of raider ships. Engines roared above the rocks as shadows spread across the land. The girl clutched her small knife, her hands shaking, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Kale stood tall at the mouth of the cave, his weapon ready. His figure was like a wall between her and the outside. He did not move, did not flinch, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. "They are here," the girl whispered. "Yes," Kyle said calmly. "Now we see what you have learned." Her breath caught. She wanted to hide, to run, but his voice anchored her. His calmness spread into her like fire into cold air. She gripped her knife tighter. The first raider landed with a heavy crash. His armor was black, his eyes glowing red behind a steel mask. He raised a long blade and laughed, a cruel, sharp sound. "This is the human?" The raider sneered. "And his weak pet?" The girl's chest tightened. For a moment, the words made her feel small again, unwanted again, but Kale's voice cut through her fear. "Stay behind me. Watch closely." The raider lunged forward. Kyle moved fast, faster than the girl thought possible. He dodged the blade, struck the raider's arm, and twisted his weapon away. With one swift motion, Kale dropped the enemy to the ground. The girl gasped. It wasn't brute strength, it was skill, speed, and cleverness. Kale turned his head slightly. "Did you see? Strength is not only muscles. It is knowing where to strike." She nodded, her eyes wide. She had seen fights before, but never like this. More raiders arrived, crawling over the rocks like a dark tide. They surrounded the cave, weapons glowing. The girl's hands shook again. There were too many. Kale's face grew hard. "Stay sharp. This will be worse," the raiders charged. Kale met them head on, using the rocks for cover, striking with speed, using traps he had set earlier. Explosions lit the ground. Raiders fell, but more came. The girl crouched low, watching every move. Her fear screamed at her to run, but her body stayed frozen. She could not look away. Then Kyle slipped. A raider swung hard, his blade tearing Kale's arm. Blood splashed against the stone. "Kyle," she cried. For the first time, Kale staggered. He blocked another strike, but 3 raiders closed in on him at once. The girl's breath came fast. She looked at her knife. She heard Kyle's words in her head. "Weakness is not forever. Fear must be a tool." She rose to her feet, heart hammering. One raider crept closer to her, laughing cruelly. "Little slave," he hissed. "You will come back to chains." Her knees shook, but she lifted the knife. The raider laughed louder, raising his weapon, and then something inside her snapped. "No." Her voice was small but steady. She darted forward faster than she thought possible, and drove the knife into the raider's arm. He roared in pain and stumbled back. Her own body shook from shock. She had struck, she had hurt him. For the first time, she had fought back. Kale's voice rang out. "Good, now again." The raider swung wildly at her. She ducked, clumsy but quick, and struck once more, cutting his leg. He fell hard to the ground. The girl stood frozen, knife in hand, chest heaving. She had won. Kyle pushed back another attacker and glanced at her. Even with blood on his arm, he smiled. "You see? You are not weak. You are learning." Her heart raced, but something new burned in her chest. Not just fear, strength. The battle raged on. Kale fought with skill and tricks, throwing dirt into a raider's eyes, using rocks to trap them, striking fast before they could strike back. The girl, trembling but determined, began to copy him. She watched, she learned, and when a raider came too close, she struck, not with perfect aim, not with perfect strength, but with courage. Each time, it grew easier. Each strike built a new piece of her. At last, the remaining raiders pulled back. Their leader growled, his red eyes burning. "This is not over, human. We will return for her, and next time you both die." The ships lifted, fire trailing behind them, and the sky grew quiet again. The girl dropped to her knees, shaking. She looked at her hands. They were covered in dirt, blood, and sweat. Her chest felt heavy but also light. She had fought. She had survived. Kyle knelt beside her, gripping his wounded arm but still steady. "Look at me," he said firmly. She raised her eyes to his. "You did not hide. You did not run. You fought." "That is the first step," her voice cracked. "I was so afraid." Kale's expression softened. "Good, fear means you are alive. But you did not let it control you. That is what matters." Tears slipped from her eyes. She could not explain what she felt. Fear, pride, confusion, hope, all mixed together. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Remember this night. This was the first time you stood against the galaxy. The first time you refused to be nothing." She gripped the knife tightly. The blade was stained, but it shone in the firelight. It no longer felt like a stranger's weapon. It felt like hers. And though her body trembled, her heart whispered something she had never dared believe before. "I can fight." The fire burned low in the cave, its light flickering against the stone walls. The girl sat close to it, her knife resting across her knees. Her hands were still sore from gripping it too tightly during the fight, and her heart still remembered the thunder of fear. Kale sat across from her, his arm wrapped with rough cloth to stop the bleeding. He did not complain about the wound. His eyes were distant, watching the flames as if he were lost in another time. The silence stretched until she could no longer bear it. "Why did you save me?" she asked, her voice soft, almost breaking. "You could have chosen anyone at the market. But you chose me, the one no one wanted." Kale did not answer at once. His jaw tightened and his gaze stayed fixed on the fire. At last he spoke. "Because I know what it means to be unwanted." Her eyes widened. She had expected many answers, maybe kindness, maybe pity, but not that. "You," she whispered. "But you are human. You are strong." Kale's face was calm, but his voice carried the weight of old wounds. "Strength does not erase pain. When I was young, my people lived under the rule of an empire. We were seen as fragile, weak, expendable. Many called us savages. Some tried to erase us." The girl leaned closer, drawn by his words. She had never heard a human speak like this. "What happened?" she asked. Kale's eyes darkened. "We fought. Not because we were the strongest. Not because we had the greatest weapons. We fought because we had no choice. Survival demanded it. And slowly we learned. Every loss made us sharper. Every wound made us harder to break. That is what it means to be human. We refuse to stay broken." His words struck deep in her chest. Refuse to stay broken. She thought of her own life, of all the times she had been beaten, mocked, left in cages. She had accepted the role of the weak. But Kale's words planted something else inside her. A question. Could I refuse to stay broken too? The fire crackled. Kyle's voice grew softer. "I chose you because I saw the same look in your eyes that I once had. The look of someone left behind. They all thought you were worthless. But I saw more. I saw someone who could rise." Her throat tightened. Tears stung her eyes. No one had ever spoken of her like this. She had been called trash, a burden, a mistake. Never a person who could rise. "Why do you believe in me?" she whispered. Kyle leaned forward. His gaze was steady, burning like the fire. "Because belief is what saved us. And now it will save you." The cave grew quiet again, but the silence was different. Not heavy, not cold. For the first time she felt warmth not just from the fire but from his words. But the moment did not last long. Kyle's expression changed. His eyes shifted to the mouth of the cave, his jaw tight. He spoke low, his tone sharp. "The raiders will return. Not just for you. They want me too." Her breath caught. "Why you?" Kale did not answer immediately. He looked out at the night sky, his voice deep and steady. "Because the Empire hunts us. Humans do not bow easily, and they fear what we might become. To them we are a threat." The girl froze. The Empire, the great power that ruled so many worlds. She had always known they were cruel. But to hear that even humans were hunted by them, it shook her. Then, "Saving me puts you in danger," she said. Kale's lips curved into a small, sharp smile. "I was already in danger. Saving you changes nothing except now I am not alone." Her chest tightened. She could not understand it fully, but his words filled her with a strange strength. That night she could not sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling of the cave, Kale's words echoing in her head. "We refused to stay broken. I saw someone who could rise." She gripped her knife close, not out of fear, but out of determination. She wanted to prove him right. At dawn, Kyle woke her. His wound was still fresh, but he moved as if nothing could stop him. "Training begins again," he said. Her body ached, her spirit was tired, but she forced herself to stand. If Kale believed in her, then she had to try. The day was harsh. Kale made her climb the sharp rocks, balance on narrow edges, carry heavy stones. Each time she wanted to quit, he reminded her, "Weakness is not forever." When she stumbled, he did not scold her. He made her rise. When she failed, he made her try again, and slowly, painfully, she began to see small changes. Her hands grew steadier, her steps grew firmer. The knife no longer felt like a burden in her grip. Every night she collapsed near the fire, exhausted. But every morning she rose again, and each time, the spark inside her grew brighter. One evening, after another long day of training, Kale spoke as they sat by the flames. "Do you know what the Empire fears most?" he asked. She shook her head. "It is not our weapons, not our ships. It is the idea that the weak can rise, that the broken can become strong. If more believe that, their rule will crumble." Her eyes widened. She finally understood why he had chosen her. not only to save her but to prove a point greater than both of them. To show the galaxy that the unwanted could rise. Her voice was soft but steady. Then I will not be weak. I will rise, Kale smiled faintly. Good, because soon you will have to stand without me. Her heart skipped. What do you mean? But Kale did not answer. His eyes returned to the fire, shadows hiding his thoughts, and in that silence, fear crept back into her heart. Not fear of raiders, but fear of what Kale's words truly meant. The days on the Red World passed like trials, each one harder than the last. The girl no longer counted time by the stars, but by the tasks Kale gave her. Each sunrise brought new pain, new struggle, and new lessons. She was no longer the fragile figure who had stood on the auction stage. Her arms bore scratches, her legs carried bruises, and her hands had grown rough from gripping weapons and climbing rocks. The pain was heavy, but it became part of her. Kale watched her closely, never sparing her from hardship, but never letting her fall too far. Every scar is a teacher, he said. Every failure makes you stronger if you stand again. And she stood, again and again. One morning, Kale tested her with something new. He pointed to a cliff that rose sharp against the horizon. Climb, he ordered. She looked up at the jagged rock. It seemed impossible. Her chest tightened with fear. I will fall. Kale's eyes narrowed. Then climb again. The words stung, but they also sparked something inside her. She pressed her fingers against the rock and began. At first, she slipped often, her hands weak, her body shaking, but she refused to stop. Her arms burned, her legs trembled, yet she climbed higher. Halfway up, a stone broke beneath her hand and she slipped. For a moment, her heart froze, then she caught another grip. Her breath came in gasps, but she did not let go. When she reached the top, the wind whipping against her face, she let out a cry of triumph. Below, Kyle nodded once. You see? He called up to her. The unwanted can rise. Her chest swelled with pride. She had risen on her own. Each day brought new tests. Kale made her hunt with traps, not just speed. He taught her to listen for sounds in the wind, to read tracks on the ground, to use her mind as much as her blade. At first, she failed often. But Kale never grew angry. His voice was steady. Fail, then rise. That is the way. And slowly her failures became fewer. Her traps caught prey. Her strikes grew sharper. Her mind grew quicker. One night she roasted the meat of a creature she had hunted herself. As she ate, she realized the truth. She was no longer only surviving because of Kale. She was surviving because of what she had learned. But the galaxy did not forget her. Raiders returned, searching the skies, their ships casting red shadows across the land. Each time Kyle and the girl moved deeper into the wilds, avoiding capture. One evening, as they crossed a canyon, 3 raiders spotted them. The girl's breath caught, but Kale raised his weapon calmly. This time, he said, you do not hide. You fight. Her heart raced. She gripped her knife. The raiders drew closer, laughing at the sight of her. This one? One sneered. The weak little slave? Their laughter cut into her, but this time something inside her pushed back. She stepped forward, knife steady. I am not weak, she said, her voice trembling but strong. The raiders charged. Kale met 2 of them, blades clashing, sparks flying. The third rushed at her. Fear clawed at her, but she remembered every lesson. Use speed, not strength. She dodged his strike, rolled across the ground, and slashed at his leg. The raider stumbled. Before he could recover, she struck again, fast, sharp. The raider fell. Her chest heaved. She had fought, not by accident, not in panic, but with purpose. Kale finished the others, then turned to her. His lips curved into a faint smile. You are beginning to understand. Her hand trembled on the knife, but her heart burned with pride. She had not only survived, she had won. The nights grew quieter after that, but Kale's warnings grew sharper. The Empire does not forget, he told her one night as the fire glowed. They fear what you are becoming. One day they will come for us both. She looked at him, fear mixing with determination. Then I will fight. Kale's eyes softened. Good, but remember, one day you may have to fight without me. The words cut deep. She wanted to protest, to beg him not to leave her. But she swallowed her fear. Instead, she nodded. If that day comes, I will not fail, she whispered. Kale's gaze lingered on her, and for a moment, pride flickered in his eyes. Her body grew stronger, her spirit sharper. Where once she had seen herself as worthless, now she began to see something new. She could stand. She could fight. She could survive. The world of red skies and broken rocks had become her home. At first she had hated it, the sharp winds, the thin air, the endless pain in her body. But now every scar, every bruise felt like proof that she was not the same fragile creature who had once stood unwanted on the auction stage. Kale was relentless. He never allowed her to rest too long, never allowed her to surrender. The galaxy will not wait for you to grow strong, he told her. You must take strength or it will crush you. And so she trained. He made her climb steep cliffs where the rocks cut into her palms. She fell again and again, the ground bruising her knees, but Kale never offered his hand. Get up, he said each time. Your enemy will not wait while you rest. She gritted her teeth, wiped the blood from her hands, and climbed again. Higher, higher, until one morning she reached the top. The wind roared against her face, but her voice roared louder. She screamed her victory into the sky, and for the first time the echo did not sound like weakness. It sounded like power. From below, Kyle only nodded. But the faintest shadow of pride touched his eyes. He made her hunt creatures that lurked among the stones. They were fast with teeth like daggers. The first time she froze, fear locking her legs. The beast leapt and Kale had to drag her out of its path. You will not always have me, he warned. Fear will kill you faster than claws. The next time she forced her shaking hands to move. She remembered Kale's lessons. Wait, breathe, strike when the moment is right. The beast lunged. She sidestepped and drove her spear into its side. The creature collapsed, her chest heaved with shock and horror, but also triumph. She had done it. Alone. That night she roasted its meat by the fire. As she tasted the food she had won with her own hands, she realized something powerful. I am no longer just surviving. I am living. The test-on evening, Kale surprised her. He placed a blindfold in her hands. Wear it, he said. She frowned.
Why? Because your eyes can lie.
Learn to listen. In the darkness she stumbled, but Kale's voice guided her. Feel the wind. Hear the rocks. Trust more than sight. Hours later, when Kale attacked without warning, she heard the scrape of his boots before the strike came. She raised her knife just in time to block. She pulled off the blindfold, panting, sweat running down her face. Kale gave her a rare smile. Good. You are learning to see with more than eyes. The raiders again, but growth did not come without danger. The raiders returned, hunting the human and the strange girl who followed him. One night, 3 ships descended, their lights like red fire against the dark. The ground shook as armored soldiers marched across the canyon. The girl's heart raced, but this time she did not hide. She stood beside Kale, knife in hand. Remember, Kale said, they think you are nothing. Show them they are wrong. The first raider sneered at her. Still alive, little slave? Not for long. But when he swung his blade, she did not freeze. She dodged fast, striking his side with her knife. He howled in pain. The shock in his voice was louder than the wound. This one fights, he shouted to the others. She fought again, not perfectly, not without fear, but with courage. And each strike carved away the girl she had once been, the unwanted, the broken. Together, she and Kale drove the raiders back. When their ships finally lifted, the girl stood trembling, her knife stained, her breath ragged. But she had not run. She had not hidden. She had stood, the firelight. Promise later, as they sat by the fire, Kale looked at her for a long time. You are no longer the same girl I claimed at the market. She stared at the flames. But I am still afraid, Kale nodded. Good, fear is not the enemy. Fear reminds you to be ready. What matters is that you keep moving forward, even when you are afraid. His words sank deep into her heart. She thought of the girl who had once been laughed at, rejected, left behind. That girl had been unwanted, but now she was different. Her voice was steady as she spoke. I will not be broken again. Kyle's eyes softened, pride hidden in his calm tone. Then you are ready for what comes next. But far beyond the red sky, whispers spread. Raiders spoke of the girl who fought beside a human. Traders spoke of the unwanted who had survived. And deep within the Empire's throne worlds, powerful eyes turned toward the red planet. A message was spoken in the dark halls of power. The human has taken a slave. The slave learns to fight. This cannot be allowed. The girl did not yet know it, but her rise had already begun to shake the galaxy. The night was quiet. Too quiet. The girl sat by the fire, staring into the flames. She could feel it. The silence was not peace. It was a warning. Kale sat across from her, sharpening his blade with calm hands. But his eyes, sharp and steady, told her the truth. "They are coming," she whispered. Kale nodded once. "The Empire does not forget. Tonight they will try to take us." Her chest tightened. She had fought raiders before, but the Empire was different. "They were stronger, colder, and merciless than we run?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Kale shook his head. "No, we stand." The ground trembled. Lights filled the sky, bright white, endless. Ships descended like falling stars, their engines roaring across the red canyon. The girl rose to her feet, knife in hand. Her body shook, but her heart burned. From the ships, armored soldiers marched out in lines, their weapons glowing with deadly fire. At their front stood a tall commander, his armor marked with the symbol of the Empire. His voice echoed like thunder. "Human, you are a traitor. You dare teach the weak to rise. Hand over the girl and we may let you live." The words pierced her chest. They wanted her. She had always been unwanted, ignored, thrown aside. And now the Empire itself had come for her. Kale stepped forward, his voice steady as stone. "She is not yours." "She never was." The commander laughed coldly. "Then you will both die." The soldiers advanced. Kale moved with lightning speed, his blade flashing, his strikes sharp and precise. He fought like the battles were part of him. Every movement honed by years of survival. Soldiers fell, but more pressed forward. The girl stood frozen for a moment, fear wrapping around her throat. But then Kale's words rang in her head. "Weakness is not forever. Fear must be a tool." Her grip tightened on her knife. She stepped into the storm. A soldier swung at her, expecting her to fall. She ducked low, the blade cutting air above her head, and drove her knife into his side. He fell with a cry. Another soldier came, but she remembered Kale's lesson: speed, not strength. She dodged, struck, and kept moving. For the first time, she did not fight as prey. She fought as someone who belonged on the battlefield. But the Empire was endless. More soldiers poured from the ships. Kale fought with fury, but the weight of numbers pressed him down. He was cut across his chest, forced to one knee. "No!" the girl cried, rushing to him. Kale pushed her back. "Stand! You must stand without me now!" Her heart shattered. She had feared this moment. The day she would have to fight alone. But Kale's eyes, even through pain, burned with belief. "You are not unwanted," he told her, his voice ragged. "You are chosen. You are strong." "Show them!" The soldiers closed in. The girl rose to her feet, knife shining in her hand. Her fear was there, but this time she carried it with her like armor. She screamed, a sound that tore through the night, and charged. The battle became fire and blood. She struck fast, faster than ever before. Every lesson, every scar, every word Kale had spoken burned inside her. She fought not to survive, but to prove. To prove she was more than the galaxy had ever believed. Soldiers fell. Blades clashed. Sparks lit the night. She was cut, bruised, broken, but she did not stop. At last she faced the commander. His armor gleamed, his blade heavy. He sneered at her. "You? A slave dares to fight me?" Her chest heaved, her body shaking, but her eyes burned with fire. "I was unwanted. But I am not nothing. I am more." The commander swung, his blade cutting the air. She dodged, barely, then struck with speed. Her knife found a gap in his armor. He roared in pain, staggered, and fell to the ground. The soldiers froze. Their leader lay broken at her feet. She stood tall, blood on her hands, dirt on her face, but her voice steady. "I am no one's slave. I am free." The soldiers retreated, dragging their commander back to the ships. Engines roared, lights lifted, and soon the sky was empty again. The girl collapsed to her knees, her breath ragged. Kale staggered to her side, wounded but alive. He looked at her with tired eyes, but there was pride in his voice. "You did it," he said softly. "You stood without me." Tears filled her eyes. "I thought I could not." Kyle smiled faintly. "And yet you did. That is the truth of us. We rise even when no one believes." She gripped his hand tightly. For the first time, she felt the weight of her future. Not chains, not cages, but choice. Far beyond the red skies, the galaxy whispered. The story spread of a human who had claimed an unwanted girl, and of the girl who rose to fight the Empire. Some called it madness. Others called it hope, and for the first time the girl believed in her own legend. She was no longer the unwanted. She was chosen, strong and free, and the galaxy would remember her as the one who rose when no one believed she could.